August 1st, Cinemablend released their latest Reelblend podcast, and special guest star Kevin Smith revealed that there is indeed a Snyder cut of Justice League, and that in his opinion, it should be released to the public. Which I can tell you won't happen anytime soon. The topic is making headlines again though, so in this editorial, I will begin by briefly reiterating the background for and current state of the Snyder Cut, before moving on to the main topic, which is why Warner don't want to release the Snyder Cut, despite how profitable doing so might be, and what it would take for them to change their minds. Before that though, let me apologize for the graphical presentation of this video not being up to usual Midnight's Edge standards. That would be because Tom, who usually does the flashy videos, is currently in Vegas, so we'll just have to make do. Visuals aside, if you do like the manner in which the information is conveyed though, then please help share it, and subscribe and smash that bell if you're new here. We've covered the details at great length before, but to quickly reiterate. Zack Snyder was originally commissioned to make not just one, but two Justice League movies following Batman v Superman, because Batman v Superman was assumed to be a billion-dollar grossing beloved crowd pleaser. It wasn't. On the contrary, the reception was horrible, and since both planned Justice League movies were cut from the same cloth as it, Warner freaked out a little bit. Problem was that by the time they knew Batman v Superman was a dud with audiences, Justice League was just a couple of weeks away from filming. Rather than firing Snyder and pushing filming back at such an advanced state, something which would have been extraordinarily expensive, Warner made the decision to keep Snyder and to film as scheduled, but to retool the movie into something else on the fly. First, the story was truncated from two movies into one. This is important because Snyder's original vision was compromised already there. Then Snyder was demoted more and more, and his vision was likewise compromised more and more, as an ever longer line of chefs were brought into the kitchen to oversee production. First, Ben Affleck was made executive producer and placed above Snyder. Then, John Berg and Jeff Johns were brought in as producers, de facto replacing Snyder as showrunner for DC on film. Under their watch, Joss Whedon was brought in to rewrite the movie. Then, after a personal tragedy in Snyder's close family, Warner and DC took the opportunity to force him out, under the pretense that Snyder stepped back from production to be with his family, all while Whedon took over directing duties and redid the movie. In no small part due to Warner's refusal to push the movie back, so Kevin Tsujihara could get his bonus. The finished Justice League was a bomb that didn't work out for anyone involved. So, where does the mythical Snyder Cut fit into all of this? The Snyder Cut is the work print of the movie that Snyder handed into the studio after the initial principal photography, and from what I've been told, after the first round of reshoots. It should be noted that it doesn't represent his original vision, which, as you will recall, was two movies. The story had already been truncated into one. Furthermore, notes from all the other chefs in the proverbial Warner kitchen had also been incorporated. But there was nothing of Joss Whedon yet. In fact, it was this very work print which led the powers that be to decide that they needed to bring in Joss Whedon, then hot off the Avengers, to retool the movie. As such, the pre-Whedon cut might be a more appropriate name than the Snyder Cut, as Snyder's original vision was never filmed. However, this work print is nonetheless as close as you can get to it. According to Joss Garza at RealAnarchy.com, the Snyder Cut is 214 minutes long. Of these 3.5 hours, Garza estimates that about 1 hour was recycled for use in Joss Whedon's theatrically released Justice League, so the two versions of the movie should be very different indeed. As we've reported before, and as Kevin Smith now confirmed, the Snyder Cut as it currently stands is a work print, meaning the effects are nowhere near done. There is loads of green screen footage and previs in it, It hasn't been color timed, and there is mostly temp music. Completing it would cost tens of millions of dollars still. But Kevin Smith wasn't suggesting completing it. He was suggesting that Warner just release it as is, as a work print, and that those interested in it will be smart enough to see where Snyder was going with it. Doing so would cost the studio hardly anything, and it would probably net them a nice little profit by the end of the day. But I still don't think they will do it, and for largely the same reason they won't put in the money to complete it. Justice League was a disaster for Warner and DC. It toppled not just one, but two regimes running DC on film. While filming, it toppled Zack Snyder himself and his roadmap for the franchise. But upon release, it also toppled Snyder's replacements, John Berg and Jeff Johns, as well as their future plans for DC on film. Shazam was the final movie greenlit on their watch. We are currently on the third regime, the Walter Hamada regime, and due to changes at the corporate level and Warner's recent deal with Bad Robot, it is not outside the realm of possibility that more changes may be forthcoming. But let's assume the Hamada regime continues. The first movie greenlit by him was the upcoming Joker movie, and every subsequent DC movie is also greenlit by him. Hamada will want to establish his own brand of, and his own direction for, DC on film. That's not unique to him, by the way. Anyone in charge of DC would feel the same, but this week, that just so happens to be Hamada. Anyway, it is in his interest that the public follow and be won over by his movies, so the DC brand confidence can be rebuilt, or rather, be built for the first time as far as modern moviegoers are concerned. The last thing he would want to do is undercut any momentum to that end by suddenly digging up the corpse of Snyder's Justice League back up again. Whether a finished movie or a work print, releasing it would be tantamount to releasing a competing product to his own. It doesn't matter that there may be some limited profit in it. That profit won't be big enough to justify stealing any thunder from his movies. Because it's his movies that represent the future for DC on film. Consider if they did release the Snyder Cut. That might even cause some fans to begin second-guessing the direction Warner has taken DC in since the release of the Whedon Cut. From Warner's point of view, that is a genie best left in the bottle. Case in point, the aforementioned John Garza at Real Anarchy has previously reported that Warner's new owner AT&T has no intention of bringing back any Snyder Cut. And not only that, the instruction to Warner's customer service is that whenever someone calls asking about the Snyder Cut, they are to prat along, play dumb, tell them what they want to hear, and then file as a crank call, hoping that the fans will continue to fight between themselves over other matters, and that demand for the Snyder Cut will eventually die out. So, since it's not about money, is there any way we will ever be able to see the Snyder Cut? In my opinion, yes, there is one way. As established, the primary reason why they don't want to bring out the Snyder Cut at this stage is because it represents a by now defunct iteration of DC on film, but one which may still undercut the efforts of establishing a DC brand that audiences respond to with the same amount of goodwill they have towards the Marvel brand. Only when they are successful in that, when audiences intrinsically trust that going to see a DC movie means having a good time, revisiting a recurring cast and recurring set of storylines they are invested in. Only then will releasing the Snyder Cut start to look like something potentially lucrative, rather than the potential foot bullet it looks like right now. So, do you think we'll ever see the Snyder Cut? Would you even want to see it? Let me know in the comments.